Hi there, Dan from onlinebasscourses.com here. Hope you're doing really well today. I thought I'd show you Le Freak by Chic, and that was the great Bernard Edwards who played that bass line. And yeah, I'll show you just the sort of basic bass line and then how to kind of add in your own fills and things like that. I think when you learn any bass line, you should listen to the original and try and get the feel as bang on as you can. And that's quite tricky with this one because Bernard's playing was just so on it and so kind of muscular and really tight. Okay, and that's quite difficult to do. And I'll put a link down below where you can download that drum beat to play along to. I think it's 119 beats per minute. So even if you just get your metronome out and play along, that would do you good. But that's just a sort of random funk drum beat really to play that over. I'm playing my 1978 Music Man Stingray, which is kind of pretty much the similar sort of era that he would have been playing, maybe a bit earlier, his one. But it just gives that kind of really cool, punchy, funky sound. This bass is great for rock and funk, in my opinion. So, I'll show you the very beginning. A little bit there. Now, I haven't got this off a tab site or anything like that. I've just quickly transcribed it by ear very quickly, really. I didn't even have any headphones on, just did it quite quickly. And when I play this live, I probably don't play it exactly as he did. And that's not the point of these videos, really. It's just to get the general spirit, the kind of the groove of it, plus, you know, the key and things like that. So we're in A minor, and I'll get onto that later. But this first bit starts off with an E and then to the 5th fret of the E string, which is A, and then the octave above, turning to that E, and then we go, which is fret 3, 4, 5, G, G sharp, A, leading. So that's the intro bit leading up to the main bass line. Now, a little thing here. I'm starting that with my middle finger of my plucking hand because that finger is longer. It is easier to skip as you have to do over that A string to get the octave. So I'm going middle finger, index, and then middle. If I start with the other finger, it's just, I get all over the place. So try that. If you can do it the other way, do it. But I think it's easier when you're doing octaves to use the shorter index finger for the E string, in this case, and the middle finger for the D string. So, next bit. That's kind of pretty much the bass line. We start on the 5th fret of the E string, that's A. So you go 5th fret, E string, open string A, and then 3rd fret to 5th fret, all on the E string. And then you go to the C, 3rd fret of the A string, do 2 of those. So, okay, back to the A on the 5th fret of the E string, and then G, A, 3rd fret to 5th fret E string. You'll find that a lot of players play an open string on the 5th fret if you can. So instead of playing that open string A, we're playing it on the 5th fret, and you just get a lot more control, and it's easier to get octaves, easier to mute and control all the strings. So there's a good tip for a lot of bass lines. I'm using my first finger on the 3rd fret, and I'm using my little finger on the 5th fret of the E string. Now, 1 finger per fret technique would dictate that you put your 3rd finger there, but I just think, for me, the stretch is a bit less if you use your little finger, so that's something you might want to try. I'm kind of spreading my fingers across the entire width of the neck just to control the strings, because the notes here are played quite aggressively. They're really punchy, really staccato, and that's how you kind of get this kind of style of playing. I mean, Bernard Edwards, in my opinion, is one of, if not the greatest pop bass players of all time. He does that pop funk thing. It's just lines, and is kind of quite riff based, and it's just a repeating pattern. It anchors the whole thing. It's a hook. You can sing it. It's brilliant, brilliant bass. So try and get that as clean as you possibly can. Now, I kind of, in the intro section there, I almost immediately added some fills in, and again, that's kind of like an example of how I might practice if I were to play that in a band situation. You don't want to fill all over the place. You don't want to be too busy. There is a fine line when you're playing any instrument, but especially bass, where, you know, your job is to anchor the whole band. So whether you're recording or you're playing live, do just that and don't add in too many fills. They tend to get in the way. And, you know, when you do YouTube videos, you tend to want to put in fills just to attract people to listen and watch, really. So, but there's a word of warning, you know, if you're playing live or if you're in the studio, just don't do too much, really, unless it's called for, of course. But here, this is one of the things we're practicing how to do this. So just very quickly, I'll show you, if you put your first finger on the 5th fret of the A string, and you go 5th fret, 8th fret, and then 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 7 on the A to the G strings, A minor pentatonic scale. That's 1 octave, and then I'm carrying on to the G string for the pattern across the entire neck. The notes on the 5th and 7th frets of the G and D string, if you put those down the octave, you get that on the 3rd and the 5th frets of the A and the E string. And these notes are just brilliant to fill with. Okay, so I don't know exactly what I did, but I'll just kind of make some things up now and kind of show you. So there I was doing the bass line that I taught you, and just doing a hammer on from 5 to 7 on the A string, followed immediately by a hammer, same thing on the D string. And there I'm just, you've got to hit beat 1 of the next bar right on. So as I'm doing that hammer on, as my little finger, I am using my little finger again for that hammer on. It's good practice to strengthen that one, actually. As soon as that little finger is there, hammering on, that first finger is just snapped back to the first note again, which is the 5th fret of the E string. Same with my plucking hand. I'm going first finger and then, sorry, index finger, then middle finger on the A and then the D. And then my index finger is ready to play the next note immediately. Now that's one I did do. I love doing that fill. So it's just the scale up 1 octave, starting on the 12th fret. So it's exactly the same pattern. So finger numbers 1, 4, 1, 3, 1, 3. Starting on the 12th fret of the A string. And I just did a little slide up with my 3rd finger. It doesn't matter where from, just somewhere. From the 14th to the 12th fret. And actually I made that really short. So when I got to that 14th fret, I'm just off immediately to make it short. really trying to work out what you're doing in the moment, actually. But I think I was just catching the string also after I've slid up to make it short. So just catching it with the other finger that I've plucked with. You can even do a little slide down. A little bit of blues scale there. Now, if you play exactly the same scale, we'll do 1 octave this time. It's your A minor, 1 octave. And between the 5th and the 7th frets on the A string, so that's that 6th fret, that is the blues note. And the blues scale just sounds really, really awesome. So I was doing a few of those things. So got your normal bass line, and I just went 5, 6, 7. Frets 5, 6, 7 on the A string, just walks up the scale. What about that? So I'm doing a bend, so I'm getting 2nd and 3rd fingers kind of underneath the string, putting my thumb over the top here because I want to squeeze the neck almost to bring that note up, because the bass strings are quite thick, and to bend that's quite difficult. So the 7th fret, bending it up so it sounds like the C sharp on the 8th fret. So bending up and then bringing it down again, and then just walking down the minor pentatonic scale. Make sure you know that scale inside out. There, the 7th fret of the A string, little finger on the 8th fret of the E string. You can even bend that down a little bit. Ghost notes, they're really important. In fact, we'll move on to that other really famous section in the song. I always kind of forget exactly how he plays it. I think he goes... So we'll start with that, but there are some ghost notes in there as well. So we're going A. I suppose you could do open string, but I'm sticking to 5th fret, E string. And then I'm going... It's all contained within those notes of that minor pentatonic scale. That is a really, really important point, is to learn as many bass lines as you can. Loads of bass lines from the 70s, especially this kind of style, just uses the minor pentatonic scale. Like nearly all the riffs on Blood Sugar Sex Magik by the Chili Peppers, that was later in the 90s, all minor pentatonic. And when you learn a few of those bass lines, you really, really get that many of them are coming from the same place. Okay, so we're going 5th fret, E string, and going to the 5th fret of the G string. Bit of a jump. So yeah, I suppose you could use the open string there. So it's 2 C's, that's the 5th fret of the G string. And then 7th fret of the D string, back to the 5th fret, back to the 7th fret. So it's just those 2 notes. Loads doing those notes. You can hear this little ghost note I'm doing there, I'll show you. Just before you play the C on the 5th fret of the G string, just lift up so you're not pressing down into the fretboard, you're just holding the string. Yeah, make sure there's a harmonic right there. Okay, so you can kind of use some other fingers just to really deaden the string completely. If you do that, you won't get a harmonic. But you're on it for such a short time anyway. But you do want to get it completely dead. I mean, there I'm kind of using my 3rd and 4th fingers as well. Now I am using my 3rd finger here. Before I was using my little finger to play the note on the 7th fret. Now I'm using my 3rd finger. Just seems what I want to do there. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm using my little finger. I think I do that a lot, actually. Your 1 finger per fret technique is just, if you're at the 1st fret, you've got your 1st finger, 2nd, 3rd and 4th. That's such a big stretch. It's totally cool to use your little finger on the 3rd fret. And you know, when you get up to here, it's much easier to get that. So that's what I'm doing there. So it alternates between the A on the 5th fret and the D on the 5th fret of the A string. So the A on the E string, 5th fret, and the D on the A string, 5th fret. Now try and get that bass line completely down. Notice I'm playing it slower here without the drum beat or the metronome, and you should do that, and then you can start to incorporate other fills. So that shape from before, I'm just sliding up to the next note in the sequence. So one of my 3rd fret, 7th, sorry, 3rd finger, 7th fret of the G string, and the next note would just be 2 frets higher on the 9th. And you could so there I'm sliding from 7 to 9 with 3rd finger. Now you can't see this, but my thumb at the back of the neck, you can't see it, but the thumb at the back of my neck is of the bass neck is just kind of staying in position, and I'm just sort of using it as a fulcrum to come round, and then just coming straight back, 1st finger on the 5th fret of the G string. I'll do that slow motion. Fills sound really good, and by the way, Bernard is not really doing any fills at all. I'm just highlighting a point really, that this is how the bass line is constructed, and this is how you might add some fills into this, or how you might make up a bass line of your own. I just did a slide to 14 on the D string, 12 on the G string, and a slide back from 14 to 12 on the D, and then 10th fret of the D string again, ending on the A, and the 12th fret, the A string. So all of that kind of stuff is just your minor pentatonic scale, which is 5 notes. That's the octave, the 1st note all over again. Add that note and you get the blues scale. So I hope that gives you a few ideas of something to practice along to this bass line. Start off by learning the whole thing just exactly as the great Bernard plays it, which is not simple at all, but it doesn't use kind of any fancy fills or anything like that. But just in order to learn how you might add fills in, that's what we're doing really. We're using fingerstyle played quite aggressively. You're using some ghost notes, slides, bends, all that kind of thing sounds great, keeping the notes really focused and short and tight. For this style of music, that works really well. I hope you got something from that. If you've got any bass lines you want me to deconstruct, then leave a comment below or get in contact at onlinebasscourses.com. I think it's a really great idea to find out what's going on under the bonnet of these bass lines, so you can either make your own one up or play fills and solos over existing bass lines, and also just to get your ear in tune to all the different bass lines out there. You'd be really surprised at how little really is going on in terms of the notes that generally the notes that are constructed in a lot of different styles of music. It's often kind of the same thing, you know, major, minor scales, pentatonics and all that. So that's what I'm aiming to do with this, just show you how to play a few bass lines, but also get the connections that there are. So if you've got any bass lines you want me to do, leave a comment below or get in contact at onlinebasscourses.com. Cheers guys, I'll see you next time.